Jayesh, very, very nice to have you at the panel.
Thank you. Greetings to my fellow panelists. Greetings to members in the audience. In fact, I should mention this right at the beginning. Some of you might have read it. GBBC has brought the India Spotlight Country Report. I'm one of the lead authors, along with a few others, and just going through that report will give you lots of optimism. Lots of great things are happening in India, and many of you would know this for sure, that India is a federal country. So while there is a national government, there are 28 provinces. We call them states. So I represent actually a government which is one of the provinces. I represent the government of Hyderabad. And Indian constitution allows that while there would be national regulations, but states are free to choose their own priorities, states are free to design their own approaches and their own partnerships, etc. So we have made use of that flexibility. And some very good work has happened in our state of Hyderabad, and obviously that is one of the reasons why we have been asked to be the lead author for the India Spotlight Country Report. So there's a lot of great successes in terms of use cases. See, most of you would have heard this before, that India potentially is the use case capital of the world. The range of problems, the scale of problems, etc., which are available there. The most populous country in the world. So if you are able to find a solution, an implementable, sustainable, scalable, affordable solution, you more or less are sorted out that solution can work for the whole world. So we have done some amazing work. As you know, it is it is an issue in developing or emerging countries, issues of fraud. So there are many interventions that we have brought using blockchain to prevent fraud. Hyderabad is a very important center for pharmaceutical manufacturing, pharmaceutical supply. Lots of COVID time vaccines were supplied from my city of Hyderabad. But there's an unfortunate reality that lots of fake medicines are also circulated. Hyderabad is a very big center for seeds production. But again, the unfortunate reality is lots of bogus seeds are circulated. So how do you take care in traceability? But we have also done very positive kind of work. So some of you would be aware, particularly in emerging countries, there are a large number of women who are today mobilized into self-help groups with the intention that their collective strength can do great wonders. But again, we find that banks and the regular financial systems kind of keep them away. So we have developed a tool through which the credit worthiness of the self-help group women improves. They get more support. And I have numbers also with me which tells that 150,000 members have been supported in getting more and more credit, better and timely credit for that purpose. We have done something again which even in advanced countries like America doesn't happen, which is remote voting. Like you can sit at your home and cast your vote. So we have tried a blockchain-based solution. The next wave of solution which is coming from India and from the province of Hyderabad. No, I took precautions. I carried it with me.
Because it looks like it's summer, not
it is.
Davos,
I think the heating is too much. So the next wave of use cases which are coming from Hyderabad, from India, relate to asset tokenization. And we ourselves run a regulatory sandbox. We are keen to promote more and more companies which are into asset tokenization. So that is for the present.
Thank you very much. It's really important and impressive. I can't help asking, do you have competition between states?
No, very much so, very much so. But I can share this with you that we started blockchain-related work much earlier. Few years ago, we created the Web3 regulatory sandbox. So we are ahead of the curve, but in all fairness, when we wrote the India Country Spotlight report, we acknowledged the work which is happening in a few other states also. But I can also share this with you, that while there are 28 states in the country, not everyone is pushing the boundaries on frontier technologies or emerging technologies. The reality is that just about half a dozen states are very progressive.
More than one are present in Davos with pavilions. This is really impressive for one country.
Jayesh is the OG.
Awesome, thank you very much. Kristina, let's move to you. Algorand has been known, Algorand Foundation, for different amazing, very thoughtful and deep projects, in my opinion. One of the best ecosystems in terms of bridging different actors, including academia, including small businesses, including growth markets. So what is on your radar recently? I know that you have been doing something really amazing also in Africa.
Sure. So we also worked on the Spotlight Report, and our head of India, Anil, worked with you on this, and I think it's great if you have the time to look at this and just to see where really just the volume that you could actually roll out these use cases to. And one of the things we've done in India for Algorand is partnered with, some banks and getting credit to women, and also a digital health initiative, which is a digital passport. And I was there about a year ago now and sitting with women and talking about their challenges. And it's not just the information, it's getting their health data, which is usually maybe in a locked, shelf that the husband might have the key, they don't have access to. So it's very down to the last miles physically, getting these things digitized, making sure that they can access this health information at whatever pharmacy they need to go to. So that's one thing that we're doing, and I think is very exciting in India. We do have in Nigeria a few partnerships, MOUs with two states, Taraba, the new one, and then Plateau State, and both are looking at digital identity. So that's foundational. They're thinking about using it for healthcare information, land registry. It's really interesting, I think, as we look at where digital identity, AI, and blockchain, those intersections are going to be quite exciting, I think, in 2025. And then even in US, we have a few disaster relief programs where we're working with Care Wallet to make sure that people who have survived a natural disaster, and there's one right now in California, where could they get their information if they've lost their data? How can they actually set up some credit, get money once they've been able to prove that they were affected by this? Then can they keep that in their wallet and not have to then fill out the information and the paperwork at each of these aid offices? So it's saving time, it's getting them money in hours, not weeks, which is critical when you've lost your home, your banks, your paperwork, everything.
I imagine that there are so many ideas, but how do you identify those projects that then get support? So what's the process, the thought process behind it?
They have to have an appetite for learning how to use the technology, certainly. Training women to actually use a digital health passport. So it's really, you want to have kind of a bottom-up and top-down approach. You want support from, the management team, so to speak, and patience. That these things take time to spec out, to build. You have to look at actually what is the technology that your population has. If it's, for instance, Hisab Pay is a payments platform we use that's using Algorand in Afghanistan, and they can use a smartphone or they can use a QR code and an SMS. So it's really looking at the tools that are most effective and most on the ground and will actually help adoption.
Impressive. Thank you very much, Christine. Last but not least, yes, the mic was waiting for Tristan.
You can switch.
Where did you come to Davos from this time? Because you have been traveling quite a lot, right?
This year it came from Bolivia.
So what's going on in that part of the world, and what has been creating enthusiasm for you in terms of blockchain adoption?
Yeah, Bolivia is now going through a revolution. I don't know if you know. One side on currency, they're having a similar hyperinflation or inflation conflict similar to Argentina. In that context, I call it a mini Argentina, because it really doesn't get the attention that Argentina does. Nonetheless, has a very similar problem with white rate, black or blue or gray rate, exchange rates on the currency, inability to access dollars. In June of this year, Bolivia lifted a ban on cryptocurrency that was about 7 or 8 years long. And for the first time in 8 years, Bolivians can now legally own and transact in cryptocurrency. So I have a background I worked in El Salvador. I worked under President Bukele's team in establishing the Chivo wallet, which is the national Bitcoin wallet, integrating crypto with all of the banking rails. I then worked with Bancolombia, Colombia's largest bank, on establishing their crypto wallet, again, integrating crypto with legacy banking rails and the Colombian peso. So I'm in Bolivia, and there are 12 million people and $45 billion in GDP in this country, that of which, by the way, nearly 10% is already held in stablecoins. In the last 6 months, there's about almost $3 billion, $2.8 billion is already held in stablecoins. The past 6 months, usage has over doubled, I think monthly, if not within the quarter, after the legalization, or I'll say lift on illegalization of cryptocurrency. And I mean, my objective is we build another national crypto system and give people access to the global financial economy outside of their bordered, regulated, insulated country and currency.
What percent did you say of the GDP?
Coming up on, I would say closer to 8, 7.
17%.
Yeah.
Is that retail or is that institutional?
It is between the 253,000 users. These are statistics from the Central Bank of Bolivia.
Now, that's really impressive, and I think this is an important example, because here in Europe or in the US, maybe there is this tendency to overlook the adoption rate because of absence of some problems that exist in some places. I remember when the World Economic Forum was preparing its first crypto-related press conference a few years ago. So I received a call and like, Kristina, can you explain to me, like, it's the first time that I'm trying to build up something around crypto. Like, what's the sense of it? Like, and like Bitcoin is so volatile. Like, when will it be as stable as, let's say, euro or dollar or Swiss franc? And I'm like, which reality do you live in? Like, then if you check so many other financial systems, there is this volatility present, and they are much more fast and courageous and open to new technologies. And this brings me to my next question. We are still a pretty closed community, and when we discuss between ourselves, it looks like everything is scaling and expanding, but then you go outside and people still ask, like, why blockchain? Like, why? So what are the current biggest challenges, in your opinion, for adoption in your respective markets, in your respective projects that you support? What are the hurdles, and what have you seen as a dynamics with these hurdles through the last years, whether they became worse or better, whether some new challenges have appeared or the country disappeared? Whoever wants to start, I'm eager to learn from your experience.
Sure. So, so it is not very different from, I was listening in the previous session, which was on crypto, and the speaker who was talking about the US, how regulatory clarity is not there, businesses are moving away. More or less the same is true of India as well. So our federal bank, which is called the Reserve Bank of India, they still do not have clarity on what kind of regulations to bring in. Even for digital lending, there is no clarity. And obviously, to some extent, we can understand where do they come from, because there have been instances where small investors, their money has been eroded. There have been cases of fraud. And also, sometimes you have money laundering behind some of these transactions. So safeguards are important, but how long will you take to design those safeguards, and what else do you need to learn, or what other inputs need to be provided to you to enable you to prepare those safeguards? That appears to be a very difficult or a uncertain question to answer. Some progress is there. So when you ask that, what is the trend in the last year or couple of years? So there is positivity. See, I mentioned briefly earlier that we started a Web3 sandbox. And the purpose is to help understand and also show to regulators what are the activities which can be permissible, provided you tweak your regulations or modernize them or harmonize them, etc. So fortunately, all the important regulators, the financial regulator, the insurance regulator, the property regulator, all of them have shown interest. They have participated, and hopefully through these kind of incremental efforts emerging from bottoms up, will change happen. But currently this is the problem. Nothing is happening in the digital lending front, but of course, as I said, great work is happening on assets, asset tokenization. So again, as a state, you would have got a sense by now that we are one of the pioneering states. So something else also that we have decided to contribute, and we have started contributing, is to prepare an asset tokenization standard. So we are doing this exercise for the entire country as well. But I'm very happy to hear that Bolivia is making such rapid and such kind of path-breaking strides. So a lot to learn from countries like Bolivia.
Exactly. Amazing, but still I imagine that there are challenges. So what are the challenges?
I was going to, Algorand, maybe you've seen
Let's change the order.
Sure. I'll say that I would frame it in two parts. One is the process of national adoption of cryptocurrency, which ideally would go from steering committee / regulating committee into a regulatory framework, into a licensing regime, upon which businesses can acquire licenses to serve customers responsibly. That's the ideal flow. Unfortunately, there is reality. And what we see in a lot of countries, as I'm sure you've seen, and Jayesh certainly has seen, businesses come up that have no regulatory framework, no license, none of the pre-work has been done, and people do things, which is also great because people do things out of necessity. Within the necessity challenge, if we double click on that, there's also how we interact with digital assets or blockchain tools, right? For example, the wallets that are enabled or created for cryptocurrency, if you only have a retail side or you only have a commercial side or you only have one side, it's not a holistic ecosystem. So what we saw in El Salvador was, for the first time, there was a regulator, a licensing, regulatory regime, a license upon which Chivo had, compliant to all of the consumer protections that we know, OFAC regulation, same KYC AML standards that are kept upon banks, and to the extent that crypto can keep up. And we saw the population actually adopted it, right? You have people being able to pay for lunch and pay for breakfast with either dollars and Bitcoin. And I might have a Bitcoin pin on, but I say in the crypto world, the only maxi that I am is people. And when we had this whole framework, at least in one country, with its issues and challenges, we doubled financial inclusion in 3 months. And people can go in and out of any currency. It creates optionality. So I would say in a lot of the other countries, because there is no holistic ecosystem, merchants are not going to be as free to receive crypto for their goods and services, not knowing what the tax is or the reporting, et cetera, et cetera. So working with government and working with businesses to end up with the user's full holistic integrated experiences, it's a mountain.
So Ella, how you frame the challenge that is not a problem, but rather an amount of work to be done?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Kristina, what is your take on the challenges and the dynamics of current challenges and opportunities that get created by these challenges?
Sure, I would definitely say, to follow on what you were mentioning, is meaningful adoption, and that means not just DeFi. So I've been in crypto now like 7 years and 4 chains, and it's the same problem across all of them. It's ecosystem development. It's we work closely with teams. We just had our first incubator, and some of them were NFTs and stuff. We're going like further and further upstream, trying to help teams like before they actually go on testnet or mainnet. Like, is this really a business, right? Okay, the memes are fun, and we're certainly seeing a lot of fun on Algorand the last week or so. But, and that brings people in. But the DeFi piece sometimes sucks all the energy out of all the ecosystem. And so you want to make sure that the impact that payments, real world asset tokenizations you spoke about, we've got an interesting project called Lofty where you can tokenize your tickets. So you could resell them. You could actually get a refund and if you have to change the flight and not take the fees. And not only do the consumers really like it, but the regulators do, because you're taking the monopoly away from the airlines. And again, it's giving that control of something you own, access to capital for people who don't have the means. We have another project, TravelX. So TravelX is the actual airline ticketing, and Lofty is real estate. And so you can buy a portion of a home. And so they're doing it in US first. And again, it's like many people cannot afford, unfortunately. Many people in middle class can't afford barely their rent, never mind something that actually having a mortgage that could actually be an asset for them that they could borrow against. So this idea of tokenizing in very small portions, properties, and it makes it a little bit fun. Everyone loves, real estate in many cities. So it's really critical that the adoption actually stretches down and that people more and more have choices on with their crypto.
Awesome, thank you very much. We don't have much time left. I would love to talk a little bit about storytelling, because in my opinion, communicating use cases is really part of building new use cases. So how do you think the current communication of blockchain success use cases could be done? And who would be the storytellers, and which channels should they use in order to make sure that these stories actually leave the room of GBBC house in Davos and go get those who then make a change, make decisions, and promote it more? Jayesh.
So, in my opinion, all of us collectively should start focusing on impact. The kind of impact our work is creating, are the pressing problems that a common person faces or has been facing for generations altogether. Have I been able to bring a solution to that? You spoke about digital health. I'll be very happy to connect with you offline to understand what you are planning to do using blockchain. I spoke about fraud. I mentioned to you on microfinance that you also mentioned, how people who are totally marginalized from the formal banking systems today are able to access more funding because their credit records are maintained on an immutable blockchain, and so on and so forth. So if you are able to show this, that the technology can also help people alleviate their living condition, that will be something great. And these are stories which can be picked very, very easily. They can spread far. People can learn from each other. And in a way, I'm very confident about it. It will also help the whole world address this problem of digital divide, because people, if they see happening before their eyes solutions to their long-standing problems, I'm sure there'll be more buy-in to understand technology, to participate in technology.
Thank you very much.
I think that crypto, and by extension, blockchain has a huge PR issue, has never done a good job of communicating the benefits to multiple populations. And so it's really up to bring users and have them on Twitter and saying how easy it was for them to buy something with their wallet. It's really giving them the tools and getting away from the tech and how complicated it is, and actually getting to those very simple things, those simple tools, paying your electric bill in Afghanistan with your Hasab Pay, like something that makes sense to people. They get it and they want to talk about it.
Thank you, Kristina. Tristan.
It's a great point on the use the pay. I give a story often of a woman who sells pupusas, which is like a local dish. And I forgot my wallet one day, and I asked if she had, cryptocurrency, if she had a digital wallet. And this is a woman that never had a bank account in her life, for sure. And yeah, she downloaded the wallet, and I was able to get breakfast, and she was able to get paid and everybody was happy. Such a simple story. And there are stories like this, and there are other ones like on the education side, which I know you put a lot of effort into. There are the youth that are coming into this world that are introduced to these tools. we should put an emphasis on their empowerment as they use these tools, because they actually have better understanding of money than us. We see money as bifurcated fiat crypto. They're just seeing an option set of tools of, I can use this local system or I can use a global system. And depending on my use case and where I want to, I can take a car or I can walk. And I think also the framing of it in practicality makes a big difference.
Thank you so much. I sympathize with everything, and I think that relatable stories are those who definitely find the listeners, the readers, and also what you've been sharing now helps me understand that I think starting thinking local and then moving global, because locally stories, adoption, and use cases get much more impact. So before trying to conquer the world, I think we need to, try to make a small change, small changes step by step. Thank you very much, and enjoy Davos this week. Thank you very much.
Thank you.